So the Empire was bad, everyone knows that. Blowing up planets is not exactly a thing good guys do, but the Rebel Alliance wasn't exactly a bastion of democracy either. This is something the Essential Guide to Warfare in Star Wars Legends points out. The Alliance to restore the Republic was not actually the Republic's government in exile, which is something we saw later on in Star Wars Legends, with, for example, the Fel Empire and even the GA. Rather, it was practically a military dictatorship with the sole goal of defeating the Empire. I'll get to the proof and the explanation for that in just a minute, but of course I do just want to mention that a dictatorship which actually governs people, like the Empire had, is very different than a dictatorship which mostly manages the armed forces of a rebellion. Anyway, as the Essential Guide to Warfare explains, the Chief of State of the Rebel Alliance had virtually unlimited power and can only be deposed by a 2/3 vote of the Advisory Council. The Chief of State was, for the entire history of the Alliance, Mon Mothma. She never stepped down, she was never elected, she was just chosen to rule the Alliance, and she did, all aspects of it, military and civilian. However, the Alliance's goal was always to form another government. In Star Wars Legends, they would first form what was called the Alliance of Free Planets, and later the New Republic. In the Alliance's Articles of Founding had a provision that when the Emperor was deposed, killed, or resigned, that a constitutional convention would take place, and that would help decide how to govern the restored republic. Now, I think that's a bit presumptuous personally, like there's no indication that simply killing Palpatine would restore the republic, but whatever. The weird thing is, after the Empire is defeated at the Battle of Endor and the New Republic is formed, we don't really learn a whole lot about how the government of the New Republic is formed, or how Mon Mothma is actually chosen to continue to be Chief of State. We do know from the Black Fleet Crisis, which itself covers the Constitution, the role of Chief of State, and just the general running of the New Republic, that even in the New Republic, the Chief of State still had a lot of formal power. They could unilaterally allow planets to join the New Republic, they could declare war. During times of war, they could seemingly not be deposed, and they were the head of not only the executive branch, but apparently the legislative branch too, as they are referred to as the President of the Senate. The thing that I find kind of troubling, and that I think Imperial warlords would do well to play up, is we don't actually know how Mon Mothma was elected or selected to continue her role as Chief of State. She just sort of takes that role as the Alliance is found. What I think is very possible is that when the Alliance transformed into the New Republic, that a ruling council was formed, and at the top of that was Mon Mothma. Mon Mothma was probably selected because she was the most agreeable choice. The concerning thing though is that as far as I know, there's no evidence of there being any sort of vote for either the ruling council or Mon Mothma. Senators are elected for individual planets, and then presumably they could then vote on things like Chief of State, but Mon Mothma assumes the title basically as the New Republic is formed, where there's only a few planets a part of the government. And I find this somewhat concerning because this wouldn't include planets which were under the most difficult conditions in the galaxy, one that the New Republic had to save from under the boots of the Empire. There is some mention in the New Essential Chronology of a New Republic presidential or Chief of State election in 11 ABY, but there's also some concerning circumstances around this. For one, it seems like the election was triggered by the resignation of Mon Mothma because of a health crisis, which is covered in the Jedi Academy trilogy. But the weird thing is, as Mon Mothma is presumably on her deathbed, now she is actually cured, she kind of just gives the role to Princess Leia. She says, "You, Leia, will be the Chief of State for the New Republic. If I had any strength left to give, I would give it all to you. You'll need it to hold this newborn republic of ours together." I keep using the word concerning, but that's what this is. This is seeming like a dictatorship. The Chief of State is basically stating, even though this has been a government that has not been without controversy that this is who the next chief of state will be, and maybe the Senate just goes with it. There are other sources that suggest that the Senate would basically do whatever the New Republic ruling council wanted, and you can see how that could potentially be ripe for nepotism. Either way, Mon Mothma says it's done, and Leia is now chief of state. She would remain chief of state for a long time. We see in the Black Fleet crisis that her authority is challenged. She gets out of that challenge by declaring war, which is a little bit worrying for the state of the New Republic's constitution, and then at other times she basically just takes a break. And if you're wondering who serves during Princess Leia or Chief of State Leia's breaks, well, usually Mon Mothma. The New Essential Chronology again makes another reference to an election in 21 ABY, which is nice, but Leia wins it seemingly without any sort of question. The biggest thing seems to be whether she wants to hold on power for longer. Later, Borsk Phalia would become Chief of State, and the fact that that happens tells me that there's something seriously broken in the New Republic's political system. And in 28 ABY, during the height of the Yuuzhan Vong War, we see Cal Omis elected as the quote-unquote good guys openly interfere with the electoral process using supplies and YVH war droids to get their favored candidate the electoral post. So again, more and more power continues to stay in the same family, and it's no surprise that in the GA's political system, Jacen Solo is also able to assume power through a coup, and to be honest, it doesn't seem that illegal and no one seems that surprised. The GA, by the way, is the name of the government that followed the New Republic after the former crumbled during the Yuuzhan Vong War. Probably the most questionable of elections was also in the GA. At that point, it seems like the Empire actually had a better hold on democracy than the Galactic Alliance. Anyway, Natasi Dalla, the crazed Imperial warlord who tried to bomb Luke's Jedi Praxium and who just generally shows no skills in leadership or ethics or anything else, is kind of just made Chief of State, largely because of her secret lover, Nek Boatu, who was also the head of the military, a little bit concerning there. And people kind of just went with it because it was a candidate that apparently everyone in the government could agree on. I don't know about that, but what I do know is that, surprise, surprise, Dalla would become very Palpatinian, as pretty much everyone in the Galactic Alliance would notice. She would basically start another Jedi Purge, and apparently the GA had no mechanism for controlling this within their constitution because the Jedi were forced to initiate another coup. So all in all, yeah, the Empire was bad, but at least they were open about how undemocratic they were. The New Republic and the Rebel Alliance and the Galactic Alliance pretended to be otherwise, and apparently there's all these popular votes and stuff. I never see them happening. All I see is the same 2 or 3 people, all with the same political agenda, all who are very, very war hungry, becoming Chief of State again and again, and it just really has me questioning what the good guys are up to. But guys, that's all for today. Until next time, I hope you enjoyed this video. Be safe, have a good one, vote early and often, and may the Force be with you.